way delayed from where we'd like to be.
It's a catch-up game for farmers like John Schmidt right now.
And while conditions in parts of the tri-state seem favorable right now, farmers say they're going to need good growing conditions throughout the summer and into the fall.
It's just been a stressful year for the farming community.
Rosendale says he started harvesting soybeans on Monday. This is the first time he's been able to get into the fields. But due to high moisture on the corn crop, that's why he came over and started to harvest soybeans.
Seen some guys say we've never been here before, and I'd say I agree. I've been doing this for a while and never seen a year quite like this one.
Secretary Perdue told Jokes, addressed key issues in the ag industry, and took a call from President Trump.
Hello, Mr. President, it's sunny here.
How cool temperatures are also slowing that drying process.
But temperatures must remain cold for farmers to apply anhydrous ammonia.
New tonight at 10 o'clock, a planting season is in full swing tonight for tri-state farmers. They're dealing with a record year for a late planting season as saturated grounds have kept them out of the fields for a majority of the spring. KHQA's Lindsay Whitaker takes you to the field tonight with an update on how the season is going now that weather conditions are improving.
Well, it's been a challenging spring with the wet weather. We're way delayed from where we'd like to be.
It's a catch-up game for farmers like John Schmidt right now as crops in the tri-states are being planted later than ever.
It's just a month behind where we'd like it to be.
Schmidt and his family farms about 1,000 acres.
We've had so few days in this spring to get the work done, so it has really been a challenge.
They're now working around the clock to make up for lost time in the fields.
Those 2 days that we ran day, night, and day, we planted 250 acres in 2 days, but that was unusual.
Schmidt finished planting corn last week, just in time to make the crop insurance deadline. He will now have to replant corn listed in poor condition, but now his focus is on soybeans. A deadline looms for those crops on June 20th.
We're about half done on beans. I know it's all over the board depending on field conditions. Some guys are done, some guys are not close to being done.
Last week's USDA crop progress report shows about 73% of corn and 49% of beans are in the ground in Illinois.
And while conditions in parts of the tri-state seem favorable right now, farmers say they're going to need good growing conditions throughout the summer and into the fall.
We're going to need timely rains, we're going to need a late frost, we're going to need a fall that's not wet so we can get the crop out.
In Hancock County, Lindsay Whitaker, KHQA News.
New tonight at 10, tri-state farmers are calling this year's growing season one of the worst on record.
But a fairly new cover crop program is providing relief to area farmers so their fields won't go to waste. KHQA's Lindsay Whitaker joins us live in studio to explain the program and how it benefits farmers.
From spring flooding that lasted well into summer to tariffs, many producers say they're ready to put 2019 behind them. But some are thankful for coverage from complete loss.
Producers want to grow a crop and sell a crop for a fair price.
But that hasn't been the case for farmers this year. Warsaw farmer Joe Zumwalt says a wet spring delayed planting and high river levels halted exports on the Mississippi River.
After a final planting date for corn or soybeans, we have the option to take prevented plant, and that applies to our crop insurance.
Illinois Department of Agriculture Director John Sullivan says his department found a way to protect those preventive plant acres from out of the red and turn them into the green.
We identified about $500,000 in our budget, and we said, what if we offered a small incentive to a farmer to put a cover crop on those prevented planted acres?
Which is exactly what the state did. Looking back, Sullivan calls the state's cover crop program highly successful.
We offered a $5 an acre incentive to a farmer to put those acres into a cover crop. In less than 2 weeks, the money was allocated. I mean, over 100,000, right at 100,000 acres.
Money for several different cover crops that individual farmers could choose.
From grasses to radishes, turnips, all sorts of legumes and things. It all depends what that producer wants to grow,
And Sullivan says the farmer isn't the only one who benefits from the cover crops.
Certainly controls erosion. It also controls weeds. But more importantly, I think it helps, the root system helps to keep the nutrients in the soil instead of going into our waterways.
And Zumwalt, for one, is grateful. He says the program is a testament to the Department of Ag considering the state's financial burden.
You don't just want to leave ground, as I'd say, fallow or unplanted. If you don't have something growing out there, you can have impacts on the next year's crop.
The federal government has also stepped in and provided assistance to some farmers in an MFP payment. The Market Facilitation Program helps offset farmers' impact costs.
Today and new tonight at 5, U.S. Secretary of Ag Sonny Perdue makes a stop at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur today. The show, the largest in the world, serving more than 600 vendors. KHOA's Lindsay Whitaker working for you tonight after meeting with the Secretary of Ag with more on his agenda.
Secretary Perdue told jokes, addressed key issues in the ag industry, and took a call from President Trump.
Hello, Mr. President. It's Sonny here.
The call came in the middle of an interview with veteran ag reporter Max Armstrong. On the phone, the president talked about trade with China, saying he could make a quick deal now, but it's not good enough.
And I could turn that deal into a tremendous amount of agricultural products. I could do it immediately. I'd be a hero. I'd easily win the election, and, that would be that.
Perdue says trade is the #1 issue, with farmers citing his visit to all 50 states. A new trade deal between the U.S. and Japan is ongoing. Perdue spoke with media following today's talk with the president.
Farmers have gone through those kind of periods before, and I would submit to you that these kind of economic challenges started long before there was any sort of trade disruption that happened. You know that it was not easy in farming prior to 17, and when any kind of discussions with China happened, they were just making it by then.
Secretary Perdue says President Trump will be releasing more information on the ethanol waivers in the coming weeks. He would not elaborate on those discussions, saying the president wants to get out to the farmers and talk about it himself. Reporting from the Farm Progress Show, Lindsay Whitaker.
HOA's Lindsay Whitaker joins us live in studio with more on USMCA and how it affects you at home.
A modernized version of the North American Fair Trade Agreement is what lawmakers are calling USMCA, or NAFTA 2.0.
I don't want to get tied up in 2020 presidential politics, and all it will take is one presidential candidate or wannabe out here saying the USMCA is bad.
Tri-state farmers are feeling the effects of a poor year in the agriculture sector.
On top of the not getting the acres planted or getting them planted late, and either not enough rain or too much rain. I mean, it's just been a stressful year for the farming community.
Acting Director of Illinois Ag, John Sullivan, says poor growing conditions, tariffs, and a trade war planted a dark cloud over farmers' fields. Secretary Perdue gives credit to farmers during these trying times.
I just have to tell you, I don't know of any sector in the economy that is resilient as agriculture, and it's kind of a way of life in the fact that we like to make money, but occasionally we know that the corn doesn't come up and get rained out, and we get prevented planting and those kind of things. These are people that just keep on keeping on.
Congress could soon pass USMCA. The International Trade Administration says the agreement will create 176,000 jobs. It could also bring more exports and higher wages. Perdue believes House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will bring the agreement to the table.
I think the speaker's really pretty I think she's trying to play it fair and square by giving her caucus enough opportunity to ask the questions that their constituents may have.
Perdue says when farmers are financially stressed,
you don't buy those pickups and equipment and go to the store like you would in small rural towns like you would ordinarily.
New provisions in digital trade and regulatory practices are included in the agreement, along with farming and manufacturing. It could be ratified by the end of the fall if the agreement is voted on in early September. That could be good for area farmers.
It is go time for tri-state farmers wishing to cash a crop this year. Farmers across the tri-states are now harvesting both corn and soybeans. KHOA's Lindsay Whitaker takes you to tri-state fields tonight to show you what early yield numbers look like for area farmers.
Seen some guys say we've never been here before, and I'd say I agree. I've been doing this for a while and never seen a year quite like this one.
There is no question crop producers like Burdett Rosendale have faced several challenges this year, beginning with a wet spring and late planting season to start off the year.
Rosendale says he started harvesting soybeans on Monday. This is the first time he's been able to get into the field. But due to high moisture on the corn crop, that's why he came over and started to harvest soybeans.
Well, if they're too wet, they just won't cut. Well, you can't thrash them. They just don't work well. But otherwise, if they're too wet, you take a moisture dock on them.
A moisture dock means a pay cut at the elevator, something farmers say they're already taking as crop prices remain low. As far as this year's early yields go,
Well, I think beans are decent, better than a lot of people expected. Corn is just not very good at all.
Rosendale says when yields are good, farmers have more money to spend at small businesses in nearby communities, which stand to benefit from the profit as well.
There's more grain to be hauled, so that's more trucking. You know, there's farmers that truck and people who truck for a living, so the good yields helps them out too.
Now farmers are hoping Mother Nature brings them warm, dry weather to help out too.
It's fun at times, but it can also get to be a long go in here, a long time to set in here, depending on what's going on.
And as another harvest season looms, Rosendale hopes to put the unique struggles of 2019 to rest.
Got insurance that may help, and just try to piece together whatever pieces we can to get to the end of the year and pay all the bills.
Rosendale says he's about halfway done harvesting soybeans and is about 20% complete on harvesting corn. He says he'd like to be done with harvest in about 4 weeks.
You may find yourself in long lines, stuck in traffic, or looking for a way to get around machinery this harvest season.
As crops are being taken out of the fields right now, farmers begin soil preparations for next year using anhydrous ammonia. KHQ's Lindsay Whitaker and Chief Meteorologist Rich Kane join us live in studio with what drivers can expect near the end of harvest.
Well, David and Raja, most tri-state farmers remain out of the field tonight. That's due to the high moisture levels in both the field as well as in the crop. Now, cool temperatures are also slowing that drying process.
But temperatures must remain cold for farmers to apply anhydrous ammonia. With drier weather in next week's forecast, drivers will need to be on the lookout not only for farm equipment, but also for anhydrous ammonia.
It's like any other ag vehicle. We're going slower than everybody else, but if you be patient, there'll be time to get around us, and it's not a wide vehicle, so it'll stay in its own lane. Just be careful with coming up behind.
As soil temperatures drop below 50 degrees, farmers wishing to apply anhydrous ammonia to a harvested field have a certain time frame to do so. 3
major nutrients we apply: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and nitrogen is just one of those vital things for a corn crop.
Fuller Fertilizer President Keith Fuller in Sutter says compressed gas is extremely hazardous for inhalation.
Anhydrous is non-pressurized, is 27 degrees below zero, so it can freeze your skin instantaneously if it's actually spraying out at you.
Fuller has been with the locally owned company for 42 years. The plant is located on Highway 96, a 2-lane highway with a 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. Fuller says liquid fertilizer is transferred to farmers' fields in what's called nurse tanks. Some carry up to 7 tons at a time at a speed limit of 25 miles per hour.
In the event of an accident, you got to be careful about leaks because people have been killed driving into clouds of anhydrous.
Quincy Fire Department Hazmat Coordinator Chris Bixel commends drivers and fertilizer companies for no major accidents involving anhydrous in our area. He says if an accident were to happen, get as far away as you can.
If it happens that you can't get out of your car, try to roll up your windows and just contain yourself in the vehicle and wait for emergency responders to get on scene.
The only safe place is upwind. It's not going to explode. It's just not going to be a survivable situation if the vapor intensity gets too high.
If you were to come across an accident involving anhydrous ammonia, Fuller says don't approach the tank and try to shut off the valve unless you are trained to do so. Live in studio, Lindsay Whitaker, KHQA News.